Well, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but a few days ago, while you were spending the Klavanless weekend, hunkered in your underground bunkers, wondering if in the aftermath you'd be able to trade gold bars and water bottles for the last extant DVD of South Side with you, it turns out we missed Women's Equality Day. I know, right? Very, very sad. If we had been together for Women's Equality Day, we could have begun to set aside the gender differences imposed on us by society during the Great Society Gender Difference Imposing Conspiracy, and we could have begun to treat one another as absolute equals. If you're a woman, for instance, you could have stopped regarding me as if I were a, quote, man, unquote, and begun to treat me just as you would treat a, quote, woman, unquote, if you were a, quote, man, unquote. For instance, as I walked by in the hall, you could have said something like, "Good morning, Glory, what's your story?" and then given me a light slap on the backside. And instead of reacting to you as if you were somehow a, quote, woman, unquote, I could have reacted just as I would have reacted if a man had done that, by punching you so hard in the face that your ears flew off the sides of your head and embedded themselves in opposite walls of the room. All right, sorry about that, but unfortunately, we missed Women's Equality Day, so all we can do is address one another politely as we pass, like gendered ships in the night, heading for a life imprisoned within the sexual identities society imposed on us right after 2 or 3 million years of human evolution created them. But if only every day were Women's Equality Day, then every woman would know that instead of getting married and coming under the sway of some man who loved her, instead of raising a bunch of children who would keep annoying her by rising up and calling her blessed all the time because she was the one person in all the world who knew what they were really like and loved them anyway, she could go to work at a business that manufactured gizmos or even widgets and come under the sway of a man who didn't give a damn about her, or even a woman who didn't give a damn about her, but was happy to use her as a gear in a great machine, turning out ultimately useless stuff that would not rise up and call her blessed because it was already obsolete and had to be thrown away to make room for more useless stuff. But alas, Women's Equality Day is over. And so instead, we have to get used to the fact that the gender differences society imposed on us after God created them are one of the chief sources of joy and consolation for just about everyone on earth, but a small number of crabbed, dissatisfied, neurotic, feminist harridans to whom we at The Andrew Klavan Show would just like to say, Happy Women's Equality Day. Now it's over. Get me a beer. Trigger warning, I'm Andrew Klavan, and this is The Andrew Klavan Show. I knew I wasn't going to get through that, but I tried. I did try. I just have to rehearse these like 150 times before I come. All right, we're going to be talking about sex all day, and this is going to be very suspenseful. This is going to be a very suspenseful show because we're going to see if I can get through the entire Anthony Weiner story without a single double entendre about Anthony Weiner's dingus. It's going to be very suspenseful. You're going to be on the edge of your seat waiting to see if I can get through this without making one lousy joke about Weiner's joystick. All right, but in order to see that, in order to get to the end and find out whether it's going to work or not, you have to stay with us after you lose the Facebook feed. You only get 15 minutes on Facebook or YouTube. Then you got to come to the Daily Wire, or you can download us on iTunes or SoundCloud. And also subscribe. Tomorrow is Mailbag Day. Hey, while please send in questions for the mailbag tomorrow if you are a subscriber. And if you get a chance, if you have an extra minute, put in some stuff that you like. I'm always talking about stuff I like. I'd like to hear more about stuff you like. You can just mention it with the question or just send in a statement about it. I'd be really interested to know what pop culture or non-pop culture or serious piece of culture has really affected you. I would really like to see that. So throw that in there if you subscribe. It's free for 30 days, and then you only have to part with a lousy $8, and your conscience is clear. And that's important. All right, so this is it. Anthony Weiner is out sexting again, and now he's out. He's out of the marriage because Huma Abedin has had it with him. Now, why a Jewish guy married to a radical Muslim lesbian would have a problem, some sexual problem, I don't know. Maybe at night she tries to take his side of the bed away from him. Who knows what it is. But Huma, finally, this is the third time this has become a scandal. And this time was really even worse. He was sexting with somebody, and he loves to sex pictures of himself in a state of arousal. Mr. Weiner likes to send pictures of himself when he gets excited, and he did it while his son his 4 or 5-year-old son had crawled up on the bed next to him. So the picture that he sends is of him, his shorts, basically, with this little kid lying next to him. So Huma finally said, she put out a statement saying, after long and painful consideration and work on my marriage, I have made the decision to separate from my husband. Anthony and I remain devoted to doing what is best for our son, who is the light of our life. During this difficult time, I ask for respect for our privacy. Sources said Abedin was furious and sickened by the picture of Weiner and their son. According to 2 people close to the family, the sources said she did not know about it or details of the latest sexting exchange until this weekend. It was in the New York Post. And there's some talk that Child Protective Services is going to get involved in this. I would think so. I mean, if you or I did something like this, that, CPS would definitely get a call. So Trump reacted to this in an interesting way. He said, Trump has never liked Anthony Weiner. He has hammered Weiner, and he just thinks, and we'll get back to that in a minute, but he put out a statement saying, Huma is making a very wise decision. I know Anthony Weiner well, and she will be far better off without him. But, he went on, I only worry for the country in that Hillary Clinton was careless and negligent in allowing Weiner to have such close proximity to highly classified information. Who knows what he learned and who he told? It's just another example of Hillary Clinton's bad judgment. It is possible that our country and its security have been greatly compromised by this. So he went political on it. And, well, let's first look at the reaction. We have Clinton spokeswoman Andrea Mitchell of CNN interviewing Clinton spokeswoman Jennifer Granholm. That's how it works on the left. We sit around, we make fun of Trump interviewing of Hannity interviewing Trump all the time, which has become a bit absurd. It's Hannity putting words in Trump's mouth, Hannity just celebrating Trump. There's nothing journalistic about it. It's just an arm of his campaign. But that's the entire mainstream media. That is what the mainstream media does all day long. So here is Clinton's Andrea Mitchell interviewing Clinton's Jennifer Granholm.
Donald Trump telling the New York Times now that this is probably, a good thing, this separation, but then suggesting that Anthony Weiner may have had access to classified information through his wife.
That is ridiculous. That is ridiculous. I mean, I think that Donald Trump and everyone else should respect the privacy of Huma Abedin, who is, as you know, an utterly graceful, wonderful human being who's going through a terrible situation and who's tried to keep her marriage together. So I say, let us respect their privacy. That is nonsense about classified information.
Okay, wait. So just so I'm sure, this is the Huma Abedin who helped set up meetings with anybody who had given money to the Clinton Foundation and used to edit a radical Islamic anti-female magazine with her mom, and who has been through this now 3 times. We have to respect her privacy? I'm not seeing that at all. I'm sorry. And why is it, I have to say, Trump is going political, and that's part of his job at this moment. But I don't see why it's nonsense at all. At what point was Hillary Clinton's confidential information, our confidential information that she was sending out on her private server, at what point was it so secure that it's nonsense that this woman, that her top aide's husband, who is clearly a lunatic, could have seen it? I don't think it's nonsense at all. So I just want to go back a little bit, just so we understand how this is going to play out. Take a look. Let's take a walk down Weiner memory lane, okay? We're going to Weiner memory lane. Starts out, I think it's 2011, and our friend Andrew Breitbart is sitting around obsessively going through his Twitter feed, which is what Andrew used to do, and he sees this tweet, obscene tweet coming out from Weiner's Twitter feed, and it's instantly erased, and he goes out and he sends it to the press. And who do they attack? They attack Andrew Breitbart, okay? And I mean, they piled on it. So here's Weiner, and watch this video. This is Weiner's first excuse. Look at this guy and listen to his voice. Listen to the absolute conviction with which he lies and the absolute abandon with which he lies about the whole thing.
Well, let's keep in mind what happened here. I was pranked, I was hacked, I was punked, whatever it is. Someone sent out a picture. I'm an easy name to make fun of, and I think that that's what happened again. It's a terrible thing that this poor woman got dragged into it. She says she knows nothing about it, and I obviously don't know anything about it. I didn't send that picture out.
But that's not a picture of you?
You know, I can't say with certitude. My system was hacked. Pictures can be manipulated. Pictures can be dropped in and inserted. One of the reasons that I've asked a firm that includes an internet security arm is to take a look at what the heck happened here, was to make sure it doesn't happen again. But let's kind of keep in mind why this is so silly. You know, someone committed a prank on me. Somehow got access to my Twitter account, and by the way, put up a picture that made fun of the name Weiner, and that's what happened.
Yeah, that's what happened. And that's a well thought out lie, by the way, because he doesn't deny that it's his body, which could probably be checked. And somebody might say, no, I know that guy by his pants, and like he can, that could be checked. But it's a pretty well thought out lie. So the press almost universally reacted by saying, well, it's Andrew Breitbart, and Andrew Breitbart lies. And everybody did it. So here's just the one that I found easily. It's Senk, how do you pronounce his last name? Ungür Senk. He's the young Turk who has now kind of risen in the ranks so that he gets quoted as if he were a reliable source. Here he is reacting to the opening of the scandal after Weiner makes his excuse.
To me, it's exceedingly clear. He didn't send a picture. He doesn't know who the girl is. She doesn't know who he is in person. She knows him as a congressman, but she's never met him. So all this is nonsense. But yesterday, Andrew Breitbart, who of course is a notorious liar and who's been the main guy pushing this story, complained that the mainstream media aren't covering the story enough. Quote, if this were a Republican, it becomes the single most important story in the history of media for 3 weeks, 4 weeks. Now, come on. Are you claiming that Democratic sex scandals aren't covered enough in this country? Have you ever heard of a guy called Bill Clinton?
Yeah, Bill Clinton. They buried that story until Drudge broke it. Drudge forced that story down the mainstream media's throat. They had it. They were going to print it. They spiked it, and Drudge broke it, okay? And every other scandal works the same way. They get whitewashed. I mean, it's not that they don't cover the scandals if they have to, but Eliot Spitzer, right? Governor of New York, really hard-driving prosecutor against businesses. He gets caught going to prostitutes. He had to resign as governor, but then wanted to reconstitute his career. They made a movie, a documentary, Client 9, because that's what the prostitutes called him, Client 9. I watched this documentary from beginning to end. It's a whitewash. It starts out, with kind of telling the truth, but very, very slowly starts to pin everything on evil Republicans. It's the New York Times playbook. With the New York Times, whenever there's a Democrat scandal, the headline is Republicans try to take hold of Democrat scandal. And that's what they did with Eliot Spitzer. They tried to do it with Weiner. They made a documentary about Weiner because he was running for mayor and they were going to reconstitute him and save him from himself. But he did it again. Okay? So, and after this happened, after the first time, the New York Times, a former newspaper, ran this huge story about what a wonderful guy. It was very sympathetic. And Jonathan Van Meter wrote it. And he wrote that listening to his excuse, now this is after the excuse has all been exposed, listening to the excuse, he says, it wasn't such an implausible theory, after all, his excuse, because it was the not entirely reputable right-wing blogger Andrew Breitbart who broke the story. So Breitbart was a liar. Okay, and then, of course, Weiner confesses.
At the outset, I'd like to make it clear that I have made terrible mistakes that have hurt the people I care about the most, and I'm deeply sorry. I have not been honest with myself, my family, my constituents, my friends, and supporters, and the media. Last Friday night, I tweeted a photograph of myself that I intended to send as a direct message as part of a joke to a woman in Seattle. Once I realized I had posted it to Twitter, I panicked. I took it down and said that I had been hacked. I then continued with that story, to stick to that story, which was a hugely regrettable mistake. This woman was unwittingly dragged into this and bears absolutely no responsibility. I am so sorry to have disrupted her life in this way. To be clear, the picture was of me, and I sent it. I am deeply sorry for the pain this has caused my wife, Huma, and our family, and my constituents, my friends, supporters, and staff.
Just to point out, he's still lying. He's still lying. It was a joke. It was all, it was like, he's all teared up, but it's still baloney. It's still baloney. Now, stick with me. I'm doing this for a reason. I know I'm going back in time, but there is a reason for this. After this, of course, came that wonderful moment this was probably the pinnacle of Breitbart's life. Breitbart called me about 5 minutes after this happened because these kinds of things happened. There really was an angel watching over Andrew. I mean, I think they knew he only had a little bit of time, and they were going to give him some good stuff before he left us. Breitbart was going to his hotel after this confession happens. He's going to his hotel, and he looks in, and there's a press conference going on, and he says, "What's this?" And they said, "The press is waiting for Anthony Weiner." And Breitbart says, "Oh, well, I'll go talk to him." He steps up. "Oh, no, that's not even what happened. They called on him. They demanded that he come in. He wandered in. And they said, 'Oh, there's Andrew Breitbart. Get on stage. Get on stage.'" So Breitbart got on stage, and he explained this to people who had been calling him a liar for the last, 2 weeks. He explained 72 hours, I guess it was. They were calling him a liar, liar, liar. And he explained what happened, and then he had this wonderful redeeming moment.
Everything that I've said so far has come to be true. I'd like to hear one. The media says Breitbart lies, Breitbart lies, Breitbart lies, Breitbart lies. Give me one example of a provable lie. One. One. Journalists, one. Put your reputation on the line here. One provable lie.
All right, we're going to get a great moment. We're going to get to the point of this in a minute. But if you're on Facebook or YouTube, you got to come over to the Daily Wire and hear the rest.